Hey loves, it's Britt, and in this video I'm talking about Jupiter square or opposite to Saturn in the composite chart. This could also apply to the Davison relationship chart. So these are the actual charts of the relationship itself, either based on the midpoints of the two birth charts or the actual midpoint in time from the two birth charts if it's the Davison chart. So these two aspects are extremely common. Actually, all of the Jupiter Saturn aspects are super common to see in relationship charts of relationships that are long term, that have become something that feels very faded, feels like there's something to work on here. And I think because of the big influence of Jupiter and Saturn, just natally, right? Jupiter is the principle of expansion and, faith and forward motion. And then Saturn is the kind of opposite energy of that in some way. Restrictions, difficulties, karmas, and, where we can be especially critical of ourselves. So it's like the principles of expansion and contraction in some way. And then also, I think really a big part of our success in life is how well we can integrate our Jupiter and Saturn forces. So in the composite chart, it really shows how well we combine as a couple to either be, positive about our union or negative about our union, or to actually combine in a business sense, if this is a business relationship. How well do we actually make money together, or do something constructive? Because I think that's a big part of Jupiter and Saturn in the composite chart, is like making something. Like, does this relationship actually birth something into the world from our union? Like, so it does tend to be very significant. You guys wouldn't believe it. Like, I have done so many composite charts. It's like Jupiter, Saturn, Jupiter, Saturn, Jupiter, Saturn, Jupiter, Saturn. And the hard aspects are no less common, although they are a lot more difficult. The square is the most difficult to see, and I'll differentiate the two, but I just wanted to kind of talk about the general vibe of these aspects. So, when these aspects show up in the composite chart or the Davison chart, it shows that there are going to be big differences in the natal personalities to do with Jupiter and Saturn themes. So it is common to see the people being born with like either Jupiter square, or like in natal, right, or in synastry, sorry. Like their Saturns are square or their Jupiters are square, or there's a very big Jupiter Saturn difference, going on. So there's differences in how we handle our Jupiterian energy and how we handle our Saturnian energy when these aspects show up in the composite chart, showing there's a big difference there. So that could show up as like one person being extremely generous and extravagant and like faith filled, and the other person being very pessimistic and more frugal, or more watching their pennies, right? So it could show up as a difference like that we have two very different natures as far as spending money goes, or as far as like our mindset goes, to do with like future oriented success. So like it can show up as that. Then it can also show up as two people who just it depends on the day, are either extremely positive about the relationship and feel like, oh my god, this is fate, this is destiny, this is so good, this is the best relationship ever. And then other days they're like, what is this shit? This is the worst relationship ever. There is no point to this. This isn't doing anything constructive in my life. Why am I even in this relationship? It is sucking the joy and success out of me. That sounds extreme, but with these aspects, especially if they're close in orb, this is a theme of what's going on in the relationship. And it's so big, especially if like we've got like the rest of the composite chart has some difficult stuff in it, and then you throw this square in it or this opposition. It's like the highs and lows are incredible in the relationship. Now, another manifestation is that this is actually helpful, because when we are two different personalities who one's a Jupiterian or one's a Saturnian, or we just manifest our Jupiter Saturn energy in very different ways. There is a potential for great success, and there is a potential for creative collaboration and ability to actually create outer success, or if this is a business relationship, to create financial wealth, because we have this ability to like be what the other lacks. So because we're so different and we combine in this rather annoying way, we can actually end up motivating each other more. Because if we didn't have this square or this opposition, we wouldn't be thinking about these big, far reaching themes. It's because this is a struggle, because we don't blend well here, that it actually can create like impetus and like drive to be more and do more. And when we realize that our differences are not something to criticize the other for, but to actively embrace, to realize that this is actually helping us because of our differences. Like, being with someone who's very different than you in these ways can be very helpful, because they're going to see blind spots that you don't see, right? They're going to be able to help you in ways that you wouldn't be able to help yourself because of your differences. Now, there is a likelihood that even with that understanding, we're still going to be pissed at each other sometimes with these aspects, because they are sometimes kind of like banging your head against a wall. The square in particular is like a constant sort of tension here, and you can see it where both people struggle with at times wanting to be in the relationship, or we struggle with seeing the point of it. And it doesn't show up as often in long-term relationships that are working. It shows up more often in relationships that were short-term with a lot of lessons. Now, it can show up in a relationship that is long-term and working, but there is a constant kind of futility of it in it that needs to be worked on to be overcome. Now, if there's other aspects in the composite chart that are very light or favorable or fun and forgiving, this can be more minor. But it is going to be a constant theme of like pointlessness or futility, or like that the other is actively having a negative effect on your life or draining you, or like the two mutual purposes, the goals of each of you are not possible to be fulfilled together. There's a real sense of like, there's no way for this to work. Or it could be that there actually are external circumstances keeping you apart. So like maybe someone lives on another side of the world, or someone has other difficulties or Saturn energy that is not conducive to a union right now. There's a real sense of like wrong time, wrong place for this union with the square specifically. With the opposition, we flip-flop more. It's not constant. Half the time we feel really, really great about the union, and we're helping each other and we're collaborating in this creative way, and it's awesome. And the other half of the time it's like, I don't know about this. This is draining, this is negative, this is serious, but there's more likelihood we want to work on it with the opposition. The opposition in general, in natal, in synastry, in composite, is much more easier to work with than the square. But the themes are the same with both, so I put them both in the same video. But that needs to be stated. The opposition is much easier, more likely to work. But you can still get pretty depressed about the relationship at times. There's certain aspects in the composite chart or the Davison chart that really do act as like a hamper. Like they really do kind of have a drag influence on the chart. They're like a draining, kind of energy. And these aspects can be that. But I think because of the lessons learned and the karmic lessons and the two people learning their Jupiter Saturn, conflict with each other through this composite chart aspect, it's very common to see. And I do think that people on some deep level like difficulties. We like to work things out, especially Saturn dominant people. We love a tough Saturn aspect like this in the composite chart because it's work. The relationship is work. It does not flow easily. Our goals seem to be at odds with each other sometimes with these aspects. It can seem impossible to work together at a common goal. Our beliefs can be extremely different too. Our beliefs about basically everything can be very different when we have these aspects. Can we resolve that? Well, I think we have to look at the other aspects of the composite chart to tell. But these do tend to be quite significant. They tend to be aspects that shake your world up in a huge way. And I think that's, like I've said about the principle of Jupiter and Saturn, are just, they're so big in our natal chart. We need both. And in order to have success in life, we need both to be integrated and used. We can't just be one without the other. These aspects in the composite chart really highlight that. And they tend to be, like I said, big or significant in the relationship. So I'd love to know your experience of these aspects in the composite chart or the Davison chart. If you've had them, what has it been like for you? What was the relationship like? I'd love to know your experience. And thank you so much for your requests, you guys. Keep your requests coming. I do composite, synastry, natal videos, and I love all of them so much. I love doing your requests. Love you guys. Okay, talk soon. Bye.